Blogger Workshop. I just wanted you to, first of all, introduce you to all of our guests from right to left, as you're looking. We have Helen O'Hara, the Deputy Online Editor of Empire. We have Sam Corrie, the Digital Publicity Director from Taylor Herring. Orlando Parfitt, the UK Movies Editor from Yahoo. And Matt Risley, the Online Editor of Total Film. What a wonderful...
We'll take a thing.
So I think... I'm guessing most people are here because they want to write about film or be involved in film in one way or another. So I think what we'll do is I'll start by asking the guys here a few questions made about how they got started and sort of their route to where they've got to. Then we'll throw it open and give you guys as many questions as we can. We've got about 45 minutes, all going to be very informal, so please feel free to get involved. If we come down the line, Helen, starting with you, just tell us a little bit about your start in film, how you got started and how you ended up at Empire.
Okay, this is probably going to be really unhelpful. I trained as a barrister, qualified, immediately gave up and got a job at Empire 2 months later as an intern and managed to stay on. So I was there for about 22 months on various different temporary internship kind of deals and finally got a permanent job at the end of it.
Orlando?
This is going to be quite long, but I'll do it anyway. I started off as doing work experience at a film magazine called Hot Dog. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but I was there. I ended up doing unpaid work experience there for about 8 months on the promise of a job, but unfortunately got bought by a porn publisher, and then they went out of business soon afterwards. So I went back to university, retrained as a news journalist, but randomly, after doing that, someone I knew from Hot Dog told me about a job going at IGN, the Movies and Games website. I got a job there as a staff writer. A couple of years later, via a stint at the News of the World, I ended up doing lots of freelance at Yahoo, who offered me the Movies Editor job eventually. That's a very potted history.
Wasn't too long, don't worry.
Yeah.
Matt?
Like any good writer, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I went travelling for a couple of years. And when I came back, I just started interning at quite a small blog, TV and film blog, and basically stayed there for about 9 months, working for free and then working a night job to pay the rent, which was fun. And then, basically just met enough people, made enough contacts, pitched enough times that I kind of made contacts and just got a job at Sky. And then from there, went on to Total Film.
Sam, I'm guessing the route into PR is a slightly different one.
Yeah, I'm on the dark side. I'm a film. I started in consumer PR. Got quite sick of that quite quickly, so I moved into the world of entertainment and film publicity, which is much more fun. And I was at Substance for a few years, which is a digital film PR agency, and I joined Taylor Herring as the digital director in January this year. And it's a bit more broader than film. I work across TV as well, so work across some of the biggest TV programs that are on at the moment, one being The Apprentice, which is really great fun. And we're also working with brands as well, and companies like Blinkbox, who are an online movie and TV streaming service, who are actually kind of more acting like a studio now.
And you've currently just grabbed the rights to Game of Thrones Series 3, which a lot of people are very happy about. Yeah. We're also lucky enough to be joined by Andrew Woodyatt, who's the head of group marketing from Metrodome. Andrew, do you want to come in and join us? Just to balance up the distributor, PR, journalist equation. Andrew, can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started and what your role at Metrodome involves?
I think I've been in the industry forever. Started out in fashion, hated it, and saw an advert one night to be a cinema manager for Showcase when they were opening in Manchester. So much to my parents' disgust. I seemed to throw away my education and go into film. Worked running cinemas and doing regional publicity. Moved on to UCI, where I was there for 13 years, ended up being head of film marketing. Then I was director of marketing at City Screen Pitch House Cinemas for a couple of years, which was great. Then I moved over into distribution, Lionsgate, where I was head of specialised films, did campaigns like Lives of Others, Edge of Love, Loved You So Long. And then I had 3.5 very entertaining years at Revolver. If you want to know the true story, ask me for a drink afterwards. Where I was head of theatrical marketing, but also controlled online PR and did quite a lot of the actual theatrical PR as well. And now currently at Metrodome as head of group marketing.
Really suspect there really is a good book in the Revolver story,
Absolutely.
But that's for another day. So, I mean, everyone here is lucky enough to be established within the industry and within their roles. What I guess if looking back, if you could have spoken to your 16-year-old selves for the roles that you're pursuing now and what you wanted to do, what would be the most poignant piece of advice? What would be the thing that would come to mind? Let's start with Orlando.
I would say, I think knowing what you want to do is kind of half the battle, and I think actually education and kind of what degree you do is a lot less important than just getting as much practical experience as you can and just knowing as many people as possible. I only really started doing that when I left university, but actually I should have started. I knew I really wanted to be a film journalist probably when I was about 19, and I should have, the moment I kind of came to that decision, I should have kind of come down to, tried to come down to London, kind of met as many people, written for free for as many people as possible, as early as possible, because that's really the only route in to do what you do. Yeah.
Helen.
I would kind of agree. I think you also have to start training yourself in terms of watching as many films as possible, widening your film knowledge as far as possible, and also working on your writing skills, because basic errors will often get applications thrown in the bin. So just like nail everything before you start applying to people.
Sam?
Be a doctor. No, I kind of fell into PR. It's one of those things I don't think you know much about when you're 16 as a job really. But I think it's kind of what Orlando was saying about making as many contacts as you can as early as possible, and that's something I'm having to do more now, and wish I'd probably done a bit more when I was a bit younger.
Kind of echoes what everyone else has been saying, but fundamentally don't be a douche, just because paying it forward has done me very well. I started off on a very small blog and kind of put myself out there, and I like to think I've kind of got on with people quite well, and that has completely helped me throughout my career.
Andrew?
I think be focused, know what you actually want to be, and have a kind of like a 3 or 4 year plan to get there. Network as much as possible, make friends, definitely don't piss people off. And get as much experience as possible, whether that means doing free internships, but that is kind of what the film is. A very small industry, and it is very incestuous. It's very easy to get into, but it's just getting in and getting the experience, because that is where opportunities lie. They don't lie on just looking for them online or hoping you'll see an ad in The Guardian or on it's about making those opportunities.
Can I just see, from a show of hands here, how many people have sort of got blogs up and running at the moment? And okay, so good 85%. Certainly when I started within this industry, it was just sort of at the cusp of the digital age, and sort of it was probably a good 4 or 5 years before blogs were really starting. So, I guess from all of your perspectives, how has the sort of landscape shifted? And from a PR and marketing point of view, what are you looking for in those blogs? What will hook you to give people access, to get them to screenings?
For me, I think it is difficult sometimes when you're starting out to get access to, screenings and specifically junket time as well with actors or directors. But I think your site's got to look good. Being a writer and being someone who can code and build a site is completely two different things. But your site's got to look nice. It's got to look good when someone looks at it, really. And the same with your quality of writing as well. It's got to look good. It's kind of, first impressions when you come to a site and look at it, especially if you've not been heard of before by a publicist, is important. That is key, I think.
Lando? How is I know you've worked across various sites over the years. How's the landscape changed in the years you've been doing this?
In terms of what? In terms of the relationship between publicity companies and kind of online writers?
Not only that, but I guess the way the market's grown as well. It is quite... I don't in any way want to be negative, but it is quite saturated now. Yeah,
I think it is. I think we're getting closer to, I guess, what it's like, how it's been in the US for probably 6 or 7 years, where you had originally kind of Ain't It Cool, and that spawned kind of probably a dozen or other kind of film blogs, which kind of do a similar kind of thing. And I think we're getting to that point now in the UK as well. And I think obviously as well, that's also coupled with magazine and newspaper circulations going down as well, so that I think there has been a shift in terms of the importance of kind of when I first started being a film journalist, online was really seen as right down at the end of the trough in terms of its importance. You had to be really grateful if you got a spot at a press conference. You had to be, oh, thank you very much. But now it's kind of moved beyond that point a bit, where it's kind of taken a bit more seriously. But it's still Yeah, I think it's. I just think it. I still think it. There's so much competition out there now. There's so many kind of big websites, and obviously you're competing against kind of the newspaper websites as well. Yeah, there's lots and lots of competition. It's tricky. It's tough.
Matt, I know you spend a lot of your time reading other blogs, just playing online, looking for different things. What are the sort of things that catch your eye? What will make you return to a blog and maybe follow it?
I suppose just a kind of strong identity and a kind of strong kind of tone of voice. Somebody who knows what they're writing about, whether that's kind of feminist stuff or whether it's kind of Swedish art house stuff. If you have a niche and you have a voice, just embrace it and go for it, because that is the stuff that will keep people coming back, and then kind of word of mouth it will spread. I think trying to cover all the bases from the very beginning, it isn't going to work. So yeah, I suppose just kind of be confident in your own voice.
I think Orlando raised an interesting point with the rise of internet-based forums, blogs, and sort of the importance of online resources. I guess, Sam, Andrew, from your respect, I mean, how have you seen the influence of the online critics and the online outlets, I guess, grow in the last 5 years or so?
Change has been enormous. I mean, 8 years ago, print was king. Print's still very important, but it is a sadly kind of shrinking medium in terms of the people it reaches. Also, the average age of print is very old, and a lot of the majority of multiplex cinema goers are young. They're 15 to 25. They don't read newspapers. So online is incredibly important. What I would say in terms of building a profile is create articles that are interesting and unique. They're the kind of things that people share, particularly on Facebook. And combine your blog with mastery of Twitter. There's lots of very, very good online kind of how-tos to really, really work Twitter. And that is where you will begin to get a voice, and that's when publicists will take interest in you when you have a sizable audience to speak to. And if you can specialise in certain areas, then that will push you up the pecking order. There is no point in having a film blog if all you're going to do is repeat the same content that's out on thousands of other film blogs.
I mean, Sam, how important is it for Taylor Herring when you're pitching, a marketing plan for a film you're going to a studio saying this is what we want to do for your film? How do you sort of emphasise the importance of the online arena?
Well, I mean, that's my job there, really. I mean, the print side is still important, but I honestly believe the online is more important now. What the internet has been able to do is give everyone, if you want to be a critic, you can be one. It's given everyone a voice, be it through social media, either kind of Twitter or Facebook, or as a blogger. So actually, in terms of influence, a lot of the studios, when we're reporting back to them on what the sentiment of what people are saying about their film, 70% of that or 80% of that is actually the voice of online, and that's where we spend most of our time actually kind of collating all that sentiment, really. And when we're looking to produce content to promote a film, we're looking for the stuff that can actually really work in a social space and be picked up by bloggers, so that we can get inbound links or embedded trailers, because at the end of the day, studios want eyeballs on trailer views, and if they can get that in as many places as possible, then that's key.
I mean, if anyone has got any questions, let me know. Raise your hand. I'll be coming around to you. I guess it speaks volumes as well, talking about sort of print media, that the guys we consider as sort of I don't want to say the old war horses, but the veterans of the print arena really have embraced sort of online. We'll find them all now on Twitter. We'll find them all on they've got their own blogs and what have you. So do you see that online has now just been entirely embraced?
Yeah, completely. I mean, you just got to look at how the newspaper sites are acting more like, like the Sun and the Mail. I mean, they're acting more like BuzzFeed. If you go and look at what content they're putting up. I mean, it's that whole dynamic is changing completely. So you can completely see that kind of move to online for sure.
The movie blogosphere is fueled almost entirely by people who work for free, which means a lot of young people who are looking to, hoping they're going to get something more, or people who are independently wealthy, although I think that's a tiny part, or people who are doing it part-time while they're doing other work.
And that's not really sustainable for everybody on an individual level. But it's also not really good for the industry, because you're not going to get people who have long careers because people can't keep this up. So I'm wondering if you see any hope that that's going to change, or if it isn't, how is that going to affect criticism and journalism when it's a constant churning of young people who don't have a lot of experience?
I think this is true not only of the blogosphere and the sort of, the enthusiast blogosphere, the people who are doing it for free. I think it's also true in the industry. No one knows how to make money from online. Nobody's figured it out. The Guardian hasn't figured it out. The New York Times hasn't figured it out. Nobody's making money from online. And that's mostly because the way the internet has set up itself, really, and set up marketing, and the fact that you had the search engines come in and essentially drive down the price of advertising online. So if you're paying, I don't know what it is, let's say it's 20p per 1,000 readers for a print advert, you're paying 0.02p per 1,000 readers, less maybe, for an online advert. So there is no way to sort of make that work. And it works for the giants, it works for Facebook, it works for Google, it works for whoever, but it doesn't work for anyone who's smaller than that. And the problem is no one knows how to deal with that. So I don't know. Google says they think it's going to change. I've read talks where they think that something is going to have to change because it's not sustainable, but no one knows how to figure it out. So that's my slightly downbeat answer.
I mean, how have this? I mean, this may not even be a question that people want to answer, but how have your budgets been affected? Maybe, do you even have budgets these days?
We don't have a freelance budget anymore, really, for online.
I'm still quite new to Total Film, but my budget is non-existent, pretty much.
We've got an okay budget. I mean, Yahoo's luckily still got a bit of cash. I'm knocking about. But I mean, it's. But on the other hand, I'm behind IMDb. Yahoo's the biggest film website in the world, and we've only got the UK team as myself and an intern, which I think again just shows you kind of how tight things are in terms of kind of headcount for people kind of working online. I think the point as well about I think that what you talked about in terms of lots of people working for free, I think the distinction between what is professional content and what isn't professional content, and whether those are meaningless labels, I think those labels are becoming more and more meaningless now. You can have I've seen plenty of amazingly written or amazingly inventive things that some guy has written on a Tumblr blog that has ended up going much more viral than, for example, a feature written probably by someone paid 200 quid for the Telegraph or the Times. And I think that's the thing that's both, in a way, it's the cool thing about the internet if you're not stationed at, if you don't work for the Telegraph, but also the annoying thing because you're not getting paid for it.
I just don't think our bosses care. They think there'll be another 15-year-old in 5 years who'll have started another blog. I know. Listen, I think it's an outrage. I am completely with you. But the way, even the way they sort of, they slash budgets of those of us working, even the way that they try to keep laying people off in terms of our publications, the fact is nobody seems to be thinking sustainably about the future. And that goes for the environment as well as it goes for the film environment. I don't know what to do about it.
I kind of went through that. I worked for 9 months for free, working an evening job, losing money every month to try and get my foot in the door. And I know as much as it was hard work, it was also timing and luck. But that said, over the years, I've seen a couple of friends who started off with very small blogs actually go on to be profitable and actually making money off it. It's very much the rarity, but I have seen it done. So that's the only silver lining, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, let's not pull the rug out completely here. I mean, there are instances where people who have started blogs for their own, and let's not be disillusioned here. A lot of people are doing these blogs for a love of film and are doing it because it's what they want to do. Certainly that's why I got into the industry, is because I love film, and it was what I wanted to do. And certainly I didn't make any money for years. I'm still not making a great deal now. But when you have instances of people like, for example, Charlie Line, Ultra Culture, he found the niche. He's very good at what he does. He's moved up and up, and now he is established within that industry now. So we're not pretending it's an easy ladder to climb.
Well, I just have to add one more thing.
Sure.
My site's going to be 16 years old this summer. Okay. I have 100,000 unique readers a month, and I'm not making any money from it. So
which site is it?
Flick Philosopher.
Okay.
So
I guess
and I'm determined to make it work.
Sure.
But it's really hard going, and I don't know how much longer I can keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a marketing perspective, what are you looking for in sites, and do you have any instances where you will work specifically with individual sites to drive clicks to them, or?
In terms of online marketing, we're always looking for people who've got decent amount of followers and readers to place either feature material or kind of syndicated stuff or run competitions. You're very, very happy to do that. Publicist's job is to get publicity, so anything that adds to that. And if you can then show back how, if there's any way of profiling the people who are following you, and kind of geotagging them, are they all in the UK? For instance, there was one website I was working with, and it turned out that of its 3 million unique users, something like 1.8 million were in South America, so it was kind of a little bit pointless. But in terms of if we're actually spending money with online advertising, buying banner ads, and you can go to the big media agencies in London and you can buy a package of banner ads that are then shown across a whole load of film blogs. I think it's kind of like it's worth the time investing to drive the traffic and then sell yourself into the guys who set those packages up. So even if it's only a small amount of advertising coming in, at least it's getting you there.
I suppose this is kind of passing the buck, but I'd say if you see any blogs or websites that you've seen grow over the years and that you kind of think have got a sizable audience now and a reputation, try getting in contact with them and just drop them an email, because those are the people who've gone through the exact same thing that you have, so they'll probably be willing to have the time to at least reply to you to give you some advice on how they took it from that to that. That's what I'd say.
Gentleman in the black t-shirt.
Yeah. We talk a lot about blogs and then print magazines. How do you see the evolution of online magazines, app magazines, stuff like that, where it's more interactive than a blog and it retains that kind of magazine feel? How do you see that developing?
I mean, I guess Helen and Matt, this is probably key for you because you've got print magazines and you've got app magazines.
Yeah, I think everyone thinks that long term, at least, print is going to go long term. I mean, it may be 100 years, it may be 20 years, it may be 5 years, we don't know, but everyone thinks ultimately it's on the way out. Apps at the moment are obviously still in their infancy. People are still trying to figure out what they can do, what they should do. I mean, you've got the apps that are throwing bells and whistles at it, and they're, vast sizes every month that you're downloading, but they can do crazy stuff. At the same time, people are slightly dialing back from that a little bit and going, okay, well, actually, how much interaction do we want? And yes, it's really cool that if you do that, you can make something spin around and jump up and down, but do you care, really? So it's kind of, there's a little bit of experimentation going on at the moment. I think there's probably going to be a happy medium. I think that people are going to have some bells and whistles, some interactivity, but at some point they're going to rein it in a little bit, and I think we're still trying to figure out that that happy medium may be different for different brands, maybe different for different titles. I don't know, but there's still a little bit of experimentation going on. I do think we're going that way, though. I think that's probably the way that it's certainly the way that publishers think they can solve this. We're not making any money from online dilemma. They think we can make money from apps, not a lot, but we can. Therefore, let's try and push that.
I've got to say again, I'm still quite new, but I think that our kind of iPad edition is constantly growing, and the audience is just going up and up every month. But with that in mind, the amount of people that still have tablets and kind of view these kind of magazines on those devices, it's not overwhelming at the moment. It probably will become over time, but it is happening fast. But it's probably, I think the perception of it is probably more than it actually is at the moment. But it's interesting to see. Obviously, the graph is going like that and print is going like that. But it's probably, there's still time. And I think, as Helen said, you're just experimenting with it and seeing how it goes.
For Helen and Matt, I mean, will there be a time when either Empire or Total Film, the app versions, will they offer exclusive content at any point? Features that you don't necessarily get in a magazine, or do you do that already?
They do already, not so much entire features, but for example, just little video introductions to things, little bits of video interviews, stuff from photo shoots that doesn't go in the paper mag, but obviously goes online. Obviously, video you can't put on in the paper magazine yet, although they're working on it. But yes, stuff like that is already happening in the apps.
Again, same with us, quite minimal at the moment, but I think over time, because I work in the online space primarily, we get kind of exclusives that are different to the mag, and there's certainly conversations about how you make that crossover. So,
I mean, both of you working in the online space, how much competition is there between the print team and the online team? Is it all one big happy family?
Yes.
We hug each other every
we
day.
hug each other every morning. I can't, obviously I don't know how it is over at your place, but in our place I think we're getting a lot better at holding hands and skipping through the fields together, but there is still, it's not so much competition, it's more not joined up thinking, and it's also a matter of, it's not just us we need to persuade, but it's also, for example, talking to studios, they will give the magazine an exclusive picture, but will not allow the website to put up that picture. So what happens is the moment the magazine hits newsstands, that picture gets scanned in by some other site and goes live, but we're not allowed to put it up on our site because they haven't given us permission. So we get our own pictures scooped by other websites all over the world, which is frustrating. But the reason that happens is because basically there's turf wars, I don't know about you guys obviously, but there's turf wars between, say, Sony UK and Sony US. Sony UK have been authorised to give it to a magazine, but they haven't been authorised to put it on the web because Sony US wants to give it to a domestic US website. This kind of bureaucracy is still a big issue. And I think, again, I think that's actually going to go away. Because studios also are learning how to deal with the web because they don't have a clue, frankly. They don't understand how it works. They also don't understand how iPad magazines work, and they're still learning how to figure that out. So they're dealing with all of this. I think also because domestic, as in US distribution, is getting less important to studios, that's also going to help in terms of international having a bit more heft. So yeah, it may go, but at the moment there's all sorts of crazy little irritations to working with the mag.
If only we had experts in marketing and PR who could... Sam, Andrew, I mean, how joined up is the thinking for you guys when either working as a studio or with studios when you're having to balance this sort of this online and this print demand? Do the different teams at the different studios that you work with necessarily are they on the same page?
I think working in the independent distribution sector, it's a hell of a lot easier than working for... I've worked for studios and I know the red tape you go through, particularly at an international level when dealing with... It entirely depends on the individual title. There's some films where you can get an enormous amount of assets. You can get like 200-300 stills, but it's absolutely fine then to parcel them up and have enough exclusives to go around. I've worked on films, really, really big films with A-listers where you've had 10 stills, and 7 of them are rubbish. So it's title specific, but working in independent distribution, you have a lot more say over what you do. There is very little international competition unless there are very specific kind of holdbacks. Again, it depends what date the film's released internationally. But I think, if you were looking for exclusive material, then it is probably easier to go and speak to independent distributors for studio material than, everyone's in the most massive queue.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, are you finding that you're still having to sort of hold studios' hands a bit and educate them?
Yeah, well, I mean, Helen made a great point about the whole kind of domestic and international thing, and the amount of nightmare phone calls I've had to make where I've been like, you can put this in the magazine, but you can't put this online, so everyone else can see it. And it's a really, and for the guys working at the at the publications, I mean, that's an absolute nightmare because it's, it just doesn't work for them at all. And a couple of years ago, that was the case. It was really like, this trailer can only be seen by these people, and the internet is open to everyone around the world, and it as a PR it is a nightmare. But having said that, the studios are changing in that way and are understanding that having 2 separate trailers and geo-blocking them and also just giving stuff to one person and not another person, it is really difficult to manage. So they are waking up to the fact that you're going to put one trailer out there. It's probably better to go with and let the world see it as one. Really, I think.
Chap here in the red shirt.
Good morning. Question really to everyone. I'm wondering if you could have a discussion on what you think is good film writing, and if you think there's a tension between good film writing and commercial writing in an environment where I won't name the site. Everyone knows which site it was. Recently ran a live blog during the very first showing for most people on television of A Field in England, which I thought was an absolutely appalling thing to do.
Orlando, you've got a mic to your mouth.
Yeah, I don't actually know what site that was. I guess, do you mean in terms of where, I mean, obviously working for someone like Yahoo, we have a lot of kind of, I guess, deals with kind of studios, and I think lots of places have kind of big advertising kind of deals with studios. So that, and there's that tension, I think, for everyone in terms of you have to kind of be friends with film studios at the same time as critiquing with editorial authority the product that they put out. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
No, not really. That I think that's that's the world in which we're playing. I mean, you know that there's a tension where you've got to be careful about, you can't be too personal. I'm thinking of not necessarily private blogs, but actually major commercial sites that seem to be running more and more stuff written by people who don't seem to even like films, but seems to be more about, can I make an amusing joke or a snarky comment, rather than actually talk in any sort of intelligent. You can be intelligent and entertaining, I hope.
You certainly aim for both. I think sometimes everybody falls more to one side than the other, but I would certainly aim to be both at any time. I don't know. I mean, I think I think what I would say is, I think, as we've kind of already discussed, most sites are working with smaller and smaller teams. We don't have the sort of the safety net of a very long editorial process like a lot of the print sites do, or a lot of the print does. And I think sometimes everybody slips up, but at the same time, we certainly aim to be both.
I think what you're talking about sounds like an example of someone maybe misjudging the audience that they're talking to. I mean, I know definitely for myself, working for Yahoo, we've got an incredibly massive kind of mainstream audience of people who maybe go and visit the cinema, once a month, on a Friday night. But also we also have an audience of kind of niche film fans as well, and so it's kind of sometimes quite difficult to kind of marry those up together. But yeah, I think like Helen says, like especially now with the immediacy, there isn't, back in the day you'd have 2 or 3 people subbing every single feature that goes up. Like on American kind of magazines, if they all quote someone else's quote, they'll actually phone you up and say, is this the quote that you got from this? I've had people phone me up before from interviews that I've done from American magazines and say, is this the quote? Whereas that sort of thing doesn't happen. Online, you're under so much pressure to publish stuff within 45 minutes. Let's have 500 words up on this, because also the immediacy of online is the most important thing for traffic, for kind of to get search traffic. And it's like Helen says, there's not those safety nets there.
For me, I think it comes back to the mantra of just don't be a douche again, because I know one blog that's kind of quite sizable, and it's over the years it's been getting bigger and bigger, but increasingly the tone and kind of the angle they take on things is very spoiler laden. It's very not ruining things for people, but it's doing something to provoke a reaction, like the Daily Mail. And I think that as much as that has been doing them well to now, I know that as a result of that, their reputation has been damaged. I know within the industry they're not going to get stuff now that they got in the past. So it's a tricky balance, but basically you can do right things like that, what will just drive people to it, whether to celebrate it or to rant about it, but it won't help you in the long run, I don't think.
I guess it won't sustain either. People will go there once and they won't go back again. I mean certainly I think Total Film is an interesting case in point, because I know the way the readership is perceived. It's very fun. It's quite light. Not to say it doesn't have depth or take itself seriously, but I mean, Matt, how do you sort of find the balance online between sort of deeper, more constructive articles as against sort of publishing a series of tweeting out a load of GIFs that are going to make people amused during their lunch break?
I think it comes down to the person in control of the website fundamentally, because I think what I'm trying to do with it is slightly different to what immediately came before it. So we have more opinion pieces. I'm an internet nerd, so we do far sillier internet-based things with GIFs and things like that. But it comes down to whoever is the editor. But fundamentally, I think a balance needs to be maintained, because you can have the light, fluffy list features that people will click through, but if you saturate it with that, people get bored and they don't come back. So I think it works for you and your audience, but just trying to find a balance.
As a blog that no one has heard about, I like to be one of the few voices that will shout out by going, oh, by the way, Stories We Tell is awesome. You should all see it. Don't bother with Scary Movie 5. It's a bag of what's it. And in that same token, it's nice to know that the PR companies for these independent films are supportive of those bloggers as well, who are yes, they may not have as many followers as Mark Kermode or anyone like that, but they still have an opinion that should be as relevant as theirs. even though they haven't got the quiff or the big flappy hands. I guess my point is, if smaller independent PR companies and studios back the smaller independent, paid for bugger all, if anything, bloggers, I think that the way the social media works is that there should be an opportunity for everyone to benefit and grow, and you're not going to make millions of dollars based on the Disney kind of behemoths. But just if one more person goes and sees, like I say, before midnight, I think that's one more person that's more valid than someone going to go and see movie 43. I think there's and what I do say with the Empire online and the total film, whereas the print version is a very sort of matter of fact article, review. There's a more personable attitude to both sides. That I can hear Helen's voice when she's talking about stuff that means most to her, and I think that's why everyone here is so important to the film community, because everyone's voice, whether you think they're right or wrong, there is just as valid an opinion.
I think every opinion is valid.
Apart from Daily Mail.
Well, there are lots of people in Hertfordshire that wouldn't necessarily agree. But I guess an interesting thing that's raised from that is some of the smaller blogs, if they want to champion the smaller films, how would a blogger go about getting on your mailing lists, getting access to your films?
Yeah, totally. I mean, especially if you're a new blogger, I mean, I've always been up for working with smaller independent blogs. Bigger films, I've always tried to get as well as kind of the bigger interviews with the nationals, but actually, blogger access. And I think we done particularly well on a few big films of last year. But I mean, I think it's extremely important. Like I said, I think if your blog's picking up 10,000 views a month or something like that, it's still important, and you still have an audience at the end of the day. You still have someone read it, and that's not a small number of figures to be kind of turn your nose up at, for sure. So, and especially with I think smaller films, you've got a real opportunity, because if they're maybe kind of unheard of directors or actors just starting out, I mean, I think this is where there's a great opportunity for you guys, because you might have a director who's maybe it's his first film or her first film, and maybe some of the bigger sites and probably don't want to go near it because it's not going to hit their multiplex crowd, if you like. But you might get a great interview with that person, with that director, and if it's their first film, they'll probably waffle on for about 40-50 minutes. You'll get some amazing quotes off them that they'll never say 5 years down the line when they're making millions and millions of pounds, and give you 8 minutes of their time. And I'll tell you what, if you've got that 40-minute interview from 5 years ago, pump that out 5 years later and you'll get some hits. I'll tell you what, and I've seen that happen before. So I definitely think you've got some great opportunity. I think starting with small independent films is really key.
I think it's interesting you should say that, because it just so happens this afternoon we have a fairly modest British film called Borrowed Time, which is getting a theatrical release in August. We've got the cast coming in. We've got one of the people who helped fund it. I think today is a really good opportunity for people to get some, that we could do at least half an hour chat. I think today is a really good opportunity for people to get some great material about a film that may sort of slide under a few people's radars. So I think this that sums that up perfectly. But Andrew, if people want to get to one of your films, how do they get onto your list?
Yeah, it's a distributor of small films. Yes, we love you. If it's intelligently written, we will pick it up. We'll put it on the film's Facebook page. We'll put it on our Twitter. We'll put it on the company Twitter. We'll recirculate the content. Also, when it comes to doing press ads, what you generally find is you've got to create kind of like a lot of early advertising way before, and most of the reviews have been written, so you can't get sourced quotes from any of your key press titles. I will always go with key bloggers, so I'm very happy to quote. We're not asking to have some gushy, horrible quote of the week. I think that was the very worst thing for a film writer to be, is known as kind of a rent-a-quote person. There are certain guys in America who
yes,
are
not named names.
Eugene Levy. But yeah, we will always look early on in the campaign for those kind of intelligently written articles, and we will take quotes from them. We'll quite happily quote you on advertising, and that kind of thing raises your profile. And for the small films, yeah, we do go. I think some of the bigger outlets tend to wait and see which way the film's going to go before they decide whether they're going to cover it, because obviously they've got a limited amount of time to cover everything. So that is an opportunity to get in there.
I think a big mistake people make is they get to a screening, they get an interview, they write it up, and then just assume it's going to find its way back to the PR. Send your link. Just send your link. Let them know that you've covered it. Let them see your coverage. I think that's a mistake a few people make, so please make that your number one priority.
I was going to say as well, that really sticks in the studio's heads and the PR's heads, because then they remember you, that you were kind of willing enough to do that. That's helped me a lot.
If I follow it up, you know, if I send the link back, if I actually write the review for the screener I got sent, I get more screeners, I get more opportunities. As a blogger, I've found that to be true, because I've dropped the ball on a few occasions, and they didn't quite answer back when I, sent them another email 4 months later, having not written a review. But that was just all on me. But if I wrote the review, if I sent the link back, it worked. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay. So we have proof in the room. It does work. We'll come down here, then we will come to you, and then we'll go up there, and then I think we're done, I'm afraid.
Apologies, I came in a little late, so I don't know if this has been addressed right at the start. I just want to know how you feel about what seem to be sort of multi-platform embargoes, because I know there's been various key movies, particularly I think of a couple this year, where you get directives, you must not do this in print or sometimes online, but other people are allowed to. You can do it on Twitter. You can maybe do it on some of the other social network sites, but you can't actually review it on site. Plus the fact that, of course, it may have been out in America a week before and the net is already saturated with reviews. I mean, I think most people understand the nature of embargoes is a good idea. You don't want to review a film that we're seeing this week, that's not out for 3 months. But when you actually get big, sometimes websites, sometimes magazines, reviewing stuff, and you said before, scooping you. It seems ridiculous when it's an electronic world that where some people are allowed to review and some people aren't.
Embargoes, discuss.
I do think it's ridiculous when a film's already out in the States, and I understand that they don't want to have all the coverage going up 6 weeks in advance. I understand that they want to build for week of release, but it's particularly galling when the internet is talking about it and you're not allowed to discuss. I mean, I don't know. I understand why distributors are doing it. I wish they weren't. I wish they'd be sensible about it when they do it. And I think day of release embargoes are universally a bad sign. But I don't know what to do. It's now the modern world, and we have to kind of deal with it.
Is anything anything that distributors can do anyway? Because I mean, I've heard people say, "Oh well, that person broke an embargo. There will be repercussions," and I'm wondering what repercussions there can be against the Guardian, the Daily Mail, whatever, who will be reviewing it the next weekend.
Sam, Andrew, I guess that's more for you.
It doesn't really apply to companies like Metrodome, I don't think. All we would say is kind of like when we know we've got a good film, you really want the reviews, particularly in print, to hit the week of release. But then you've got to build up awareness on a campaign, particularly on smaller titles. So early breaking reviews, if it's played at somewhere like Edinburgh or Berlin or something like that, it's absolutely brilliant for us, because then we can have quote material available to use in our early awareness campaign. I can understand it from a bigger studio perspective, but these are probably on blockbusters, and they're probably on films where the reviews are going to be 1 star anyway. So,
Sam, do you bring the hammer down if people break?
Well, it's a bit of a minefield. I can completely feel for you, really, because I've written embargo forms before, which say you can't write a review of this film until this day, and you can't speak about it on certain social media platforms, but you could do you could tweet after the film. Which I don't really get makes sense, really, but it's usually maybe when we know it's a good film and we know that a little bit of Twitter buzz will help. But I think it is a bit of a minefield, the whole embargo process. I mean, in terms of the legal side of it, when someone does break it, the problem with doing that, I mean, is that a studio can sort of not want to work with you again for a while. Their legal team will come down on you a little bit as well. I mean, when you're talking about the bigger sites like The Guardian and people like that, they won't do that because they won't usually break the embargo because they're making too much money in terms of ad revenue from the studio, because if they're also running, you know, the trailer as or you know, banners around the side, they're not going to want to lose that money from that particular studio.
Young lady up there in the stripes.
Hi, good morning. Following on from the influence of the internet and social media, there was an article earlier this year from a respected film critic saying that social media was effectively blurring the line between amateur and professional film journalism. I mean, like tweets from people who have seen the film after a screening are just are taken into consideration just as importantly as tweets from journalists. I was wondering on what you thought about that. Do you think social media is blurring that line?
Matt?
I think it is blurring the line. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And I think that, as everyone has said, everyone's voice is valid, and that's the whole point why everyone has blogs and can go out and make their voice heard. It's just very interesting, I think, kind of amongst the industry to see how influential blogs and other people's opinions can be compared to critics. And I think it's just with the way that the internet is evolving and medium and journalism as a whole is evolving, I think it'll be interesting to see in a couple of years where everything sits, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So
I think as well, I think you're starting to see on kind of movie posters and like also posters for like books as well, where they're going to quote, where they're quoting Amazon. It's like 1,000 5-star reviews on Amazon, and I think, you know, you could start seeing that as well for kind of a major. I think the thing as well is there's a perception, and I think it's probably true, that kind of the old school critics, you know, your Peter Bradshaws, etc., you generally know what kind of star rating they're going to give a movie and what kind of movies they're going to like. Compared to what they're not going to like. And I think actually the cool thing about kind of movie blogs, and it's why movie blogs like Ain't It Cool became so kind of successful in the late 90s, was because they actually started championing kind of genre movies and superhero movies. Would superhero movies be as big and as successful now without the championing of those kind of those American footballs in the 90s? And I think I just think it's happening over here as well, and I think that's going to continue, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing.
I would agree. I don't think it's a bad thing. What I would say is that certainly some of our readers complain if we, I mean, at one point in the magazine, we were going through a phase of let's be really interactive and put lots of readers' stuff in the magazine, and readers complained about it because they didn't care about what other readers thought. I'm not saying that's right, but I am saying that people still value, you know, criticism as an art form, or not an art form, let's say, as a function.
I think it depends on the film and also the profile of the person who's reading it, but anyone who's film literate will always want to see intelligently written film criticism. I recently did a film called Summer in February that didn't really get a great deal of critical support, but it was a very Middle England audience, was similar to Quartet and Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. One thing we found from research that we've done is that a more Middle England audience, particularly with female bias, more willing to listen to what their friends say about a film than what they read about in the press or online. So what we found is the films worked incredibly well because the marketing campaign was all about driving the social media. So what we did was kind of get Middle England core audience, 25 to 45 females, evangelising the movie and sharing content with each other and saying, right, Marge, we need to get the girls together, we're going to see it Tuesday night. And we've really driven the film into a lot of small independent cinemas around the UK a lot earlier into the release than you would normally expect. And for a film that didn't open particularly well, it is taking a fortune midweek, and it's going to way exceed our box office expectations. So
part of that may, of course, be down to the demographics of film journalism, which is virtually all male, and very inclined to be sniffy about films aimed at women as a result.
It is. We're almost out of time. We've got time for just one last question. Gentleman up there.
Good morning. I'll be very quick. How do you go from being a writer for magazines to actually getting paid? Because I write for two glossy magazines for free, and for a couple of years. And how do you have that conversation with an editor to ask for money? It's kind of awkward, but how do you approach them for money? Please pay me, please. Thank you.
Who wants this?
I don't know. I think you have to ask, and you have to probably be prepared for them to say there's nothing in the budget, and then hope that you can get them to keep you in mind for future. I honestly, I don't know. I know for us, you know, certainly on the website, we are literally counting pennies. The magazine has maybe slightly more wiggle room, but not a lot. And I can't imagine that we're the only ones. So I think it's purse strings being tightened all around. But at the same time, if the magazines are doing well and you've been writing for them for such a long time, your probationary period should, as far as I'm concerned, be over. So it's worth at least asking in a very polite way, and don't make any ultimatums you're not prepared to live with. But I think it's worth the ask.
Lando, Matt, I mean, is there anything to be seen here, maybe from things like content sharing, where you might do an interview, say for one site, and they will run it, and they're very grateful, and they will get you the access to do that interview, and you'll write that up for them. But then maybe you can also use the quotes elsewhere, and some of that you might effectively get paid for them.
Yeah, I think lots of people do that. I think that's quite that's slightly dangerous in terms of if you don't, you need to be honest if you're doing that, and you need to tell the people, like the publicists and the people that you're working with beforehand, that you're willing to do that. But I mean, it is. I do feel for you, because that is, it's just tough. You just have to. But I think, like Helen said, just be nice and just say, look, is there any chance that you can just give me a bit of money?
Yeah,
I think when I started out, I reckon 90% of all my freelance was for free to get a byline, all that kind of stuff. Over the years, that's massively swung in the opposite direction. And I think what I did, it sounds really self-help, but kind of know your worth. So I think if you're getting this work, you can obviously write, so you're a good writer. Use these people to get your foot in the door. If you then ask them for money, which is completely within your rights, obviously, and they say no, use that as a springboard to go to someone else and go, I've been writing for these people for ages, I've got loads of experience, and go in kind of not asking for money, but don't go in thinking you can do it for free. And with that experience, you'll probably do better.
I think as well, also, like, it's the way, as someone who commissions a lot of people and who gets a lot of people coming to me asking for stuff, it's quite perverse. But like, the more needy you sound, the less likely I am to give someone work. Which is kind of quite harsh, but it's just the way it is. If you can demonstrate, if you can go off and start writing for someone else as well, and then go back to the person who you're writing for free, and if they see that you're writing for other people as well, your worth in their eyes will go up as a result of doing that, and you're more likely to be paid then if they can see that lots of other people want you as well.
It's always a good sign when we overrun, because it means people are engaging. So thank you all very much for that. If we could all thank our guests, that's Andrew, Helen, Sam, Orlando, Matt.
The great thing about the internet is that everyone controls it. It's not controlled by a few large companies like printers. So that is the opportunity for bloggers to get out there and grab a share of that online market.
We're always looking to work with new film bloggers. And it's always just best to get in touch and introduce yourself. And we're always looking for bloggers who have got a good-looking website, so it looks nice, and that the actual quality of the writing on the site is good as well.
I think it needs to have a strong tone of voice, needs to offer something different and something unique to what everyone else is doing.
The best thing to do as a blogger is you're a one-person brand, and the way to establish that is through social media. Like, have a Twitter account, have a Facebook account, have a Google Plus account, which is more and more important now. It's through, people will get to know you and people will get to see your content through social media.